Hi, this is the Love Your Life Show with Susie Pettit, Certified Life and Wellness Coach. Join Susie as she helps you with your wellness and mindset so you can live a life you love. Let's go, warriors!
Hello, warriors, and welcome to another week with me, Susie Pettit, your Certified Life and Relationship Coach. Today, I am emphasizing my certification in helping people with relationships because today's podcast will help you feel freer and lighter and calmer in your relationships. And that matters to me, and that is an area in my life that I have experienced great freedom, and I love bringing it to you. So first and foremost, though, let's check in with you. A little check-in, a little warrior check-in. How are you doing? Okay. Right now am amazing. I am back from researching future retreat places in Bali, and that was so much fun to see a new country. I had never been to Bali, and I cannot wait for the future and all the excitement that we have for us warriors. So if you're not following me on Instagram or Facebook, make sure you follow me over there because I did do some updates from the Bali trip that might be fun for you to see if you're interested in that sort of thing. And make sure you're on my email list because then you get updates about these future fun things that we'll be doing. For today, let's dive into the fun I have today. There's a lot of fun, isn't there? With this podcast topic. This is one of the things that I sort of pondered and I'm like, wait, are you sure you haven't done an episode on this yet, Susie? Like I'm 250 episodes in. This is episode 250, warriors. And I'm surprised I haven't done an episode on this because a lot of the work I do centers around codependency and boundaries and helping us live more interdependent relationships. And this tool is one that helps tremendously with being more in an interdependent relationship. So let's go. I'm super excited. It's a term I would like to invite you to bring into your active vocabulary. In fact, it would be awesome if you could use it actively in your adult relationships. Like it's something that my husband and I will say, oh, that's not, we'll use this term. Okay, I'm going to get to that term. But first, I want a brief reminder of how I define codependency. Okay, if you think of the word, it's being mutually dependent on each other. It says codependency. And this might sound like a good thing, but it's not, as it leads to feelings of responsibility and heaviness. I define codependency as being overly involved in someone else's feeling state or life experiences. So often I hear from people that they feel exhausted or resentful or irritated, and the roots of that are in our boundaries or in codependency. Okay, it's that feeling that I get, like say one of my sons is upset about something and I physically feel it too. It's over involvement in someone's feeling state or life experiences. Or say my husband is angry and I feel responsible. Like my brain searches for what did I do wrong? That's codependency. Now, most of us are a bit codependent. Let's just be upfront with that. Okay. With all of my work, I just really like to emphasize that it's not helpful to think that there's something wrong with you and that you need to fix something, because that just leaves us in shame and sort of resistance. Rather, it's like getting rid of the shame and looking at this curiously and compassionately, like sort of with this like detective, like, where am I codependent? Where are some of those codependent habits showing up? Where am I over involved in other people's feelings and in reactions? Okay, because when we can see that, when we remove the shame, that's when we begin to shift out of it. We cannot change things we don't see. Okay? So now what's the goal? Not being dependent? No, that's actually the other side of the spectrum that's equally unhelpful. That's sort of like the ice queen. I feel like it's this like, oh, I'm good. Or the lone wolf if you're a male. Okay, that is not desirable and equally as harmful to ourselves, like our own inner beings, and also our relationships. Okay. Codependency can feel like we're too open, too triggered, too vulnerable. Whereas independence, the lone wolf, the ice queen, can feel like we're too hard, too rigid, too boundaried up. Okay. It's like one extreme is like we have too open of a heart where everything hurts and impacts us, to having too closed of a heart where nothing can get in. What we're doing on this show, in order to live a life we love, we're going for the messy middle. What I and experts call interdependence. It's the relationship type I strive for with my kids, and my spouse, my friends. It's this concept of me standing strong in my wants and desires, sort of standing strong and confident. And then the other people in my relationship standing strong and confident and secure in their wants and desires. And together, we are stronger. It's this 1 + 1 = 3. It is possible. Okay, I used to be in all codependent and very enmeshed relationships. And so I know it's possible, and I lead women towards this freedom every single day. That's what it feels like. A lightness, a freedom, an understanding of what is mine to manage and what is theirs. It's not taking responsibility for other people's emotions. And that feels so free, and that's what I want for all of you. Which leads me to this tool that I'm surprised I haven't podcasted on yet, because it's a very practical tool that when you begin to pay attention to this tool and practice using it this week and in the future in your relationships, you're going to feel more interdependent and help you move out of that codependent feeling. Okay, so what is it? What is this tool? What is this thing I'm speaking of? It's called a want match. Okay, I first heard of this term from my coach, Brooke Castillo. And while I've never heard of a coach outside of the life coach school speak of it, it is magical in its ability to help you move out of codependent patterns and manage your expectations so you feel this lightness or freedom that we're searching for. Simply put, a want match, and I am saying want, like W-A-N-T, a want match is when you're in a relationship and both of your wants match up. You have a want match. Simple example, say I want to go out to dinner Friday night and my husband wants to go out to dinner. We have a want match. Another simple example, say I want to sit and discuss the latest Michelle Obama book and he doesn't want to sit and discuss the latest Michelle Obama book. We don't have a want match. In theory, it's quite simple. Yet keep listening, because with our codependent training, if you start practicing it, practicing this want match and speaking up for yourself, if you're like me and most humans, it will sometimes feel like you're doing something wrong or like your partner is doing something wrong. Okay? And this is where having a coach or a group coaching program is so helpful. So you can turn to the expert as a guide and they get to guide you and say, no, sweetheart, that's your nervous system reacting from years of conditioning. It's not that you've done something wrong. I love reminding my warriors in my midlife membership that growth feels uncomfortable. In the same way, when we go to the gym to build a new muscle, we expect that muscle to feel, it's going to feel a little uncomfortable. Building the new muscle of interdependence instead of codependence feels uncomfortable at first. Having a coach or a group that can remind you nothing has gone wrong here, you're growing, is super helpful. Okay, today on the podcast, I want to remind you that it feels uncomfortable because most of us were raised believing almost the exact opposite about our relationship, sort of the Cinderella/Prince Charming view of life. Okay, that one person should meet all of our needs. And if they don't, there's a problem. Okay, that our husband is there to meet all of our needs. Or our kids should know that that would make mom upset. Or on. This is what our codependent thinking comes from. A misunderstanding of the thought model. Essentially, it's we were not taught emotional intelligence, that our feelings come from our thoughts. We were taught that our feelings come from our circumstances. Okay. Plus, sometimes it's easier to put someone else in charge of our emotions than to take that responsibility ourselves. Okay? So going back to my example of, my husband, the example I gave that my husband doesn't want to sit down and discuss Michelle Obama's newest book in detail with me. This is a true story. He doesn't want to. He has his reasons. He's not reading it at this time is one of it. And he doesn't feel like discussing it in detail with me. I want to discuss it. Okay? If I take the easier and codependent road, I might think he should want to listen to what I want to say and talk about it because he's my husband and he should meet all my needs and he should be open to it. How does that feel to me? Icky, dark. I'm creating drama in my relationship where there doesn't need to be any. Okay? Versus the interdependent way is me taking responsibility and knowing, okay, I have a want match. And Paul doesn't want to sit and talk about it. No drama. I want to discuss this book. And he's not a want match. Where else can I look? And I get creative. Maybe I go online. Maybe I go to the local library. Maybe, who knows? My point here is I don't have to make it mean anything about my marriage or my relationship. I can say okay and move on. We can see here possibly how if he acted codependently, like if instead of him standing firm and strong in his wants and desires, like I said at the beginning, sort of that 1 + 1 = 3, if he didn't stand in that strong one, like if he said, sure, Susie, talk away. Instead of continuing to do what he was doing, maybe he was reading his book or maybe he was watching a YouTube, or something. What's going to happen? Well, he's a human and he's probably going to feel a little bit of resentment or irritation. He might think, gosh, she's talking a lot. When will she be done? Geez, that's not 1 + 1 = 3. We're not stronger with that. He's self-abandoning to help me because it's not a want match. He's abandoned his wants and is now laying himself down almost as a sacrifice. So I feel okay and happy. Now, I promise, warriors, there's another way. And yes, I realize it's against what our codependent society teaches us. Yet stick with me because this way of being feels so much lighter and the result is so much healthier. And it's just so, like our relationships are so much, they feel emotionally connected. Okay. My view, my philosophy on relationships is not that the other person is here to make us happy. It is that our relationships are here to help us grow. That the relationships we're in are here for us to learn about ourselves. Hey, think of your kids. Have you heard that quote that your kids are given to you to see where you still have learning to do? Same thing with our other relationships. Same thing with our spouses. My clients and I find great ease when we approach our relationships with a growth mindset. When we can view the things that trigger and irritate us about our spouse or about our kids or about, as many classes for us here on Earth School. It's like a little lesson is there. I often say if it triggers you, it's about you. When we can view relationships as an instrument of self-development, something that helps us grow up, self-actualize, we really step into our true warrior selves. Our relationships push us into that next best level of ourselves, that next level of adulting. Whether it's a parenting relationship, a marital relationship, a relationship with the checker at Harris Teeter, no matter. If it triggers you, it's about you. When we step back and don't take it personally and choose to learn from it, instead, that's the adult move. And that is the opposite of codependency. Letting other people have the feelings they're going to have without taking responsibility for them. That's the interdependence. That's 1 + 1 = 3. The idea that in a relationship, each person is completely independent and responsible for their own brain, their own thoughts, their own needs. When they come together with this level of emotional intelligence and responsibility, there is magic, warriors. They produce something even better than what they had independently. Okay, which is where we can use this tool of want matches as a tactical thing to practice as we step out of our deeply ingrained pattern of behavior. Okay, and my podcast is here as an introduction to give you a taste of the depth and growth you can have when you take the action to work one-on-one with me or enroll in my version of adult school, which is my midlife monthly membership. You can find links to all of that and how you can start taking the action step where your life actually starts to change and things start to feel better and lighter at smbwell.com/250. For now, let's dive into want matches so you can see where maybe you're acting codependently and have a growth opportunity, a little lesson in adult school where others in your life are happy to hand over their emotions and emotional regulation to you. You're like, yeah, no, not anymore, guys. Okay, so a couple little things I want to start with. First is compassion and understanding that we are a tribal species. That was hard for me to say, species. Humans are wired to connect, and we want to be with others. There's nothing wrong with us for wanting to be with others, for maybe wanting to discuss the book with someone else or wanting to go to the play with someone else. Okay, second, we are multi-dimensional, complex beings. We have many different interests and wants. Those two factors, when mixed in the codependent Disney Cinderella Prince Charming stew that we've been raised in, sometimes lead us to look for one person to meet all those needs. Okay, use this podcast as an opportunity to draw a line in the sand and be like, no longer, no way. We're going to start practicing this want match tool. Okay, we're going to start recognizing there might be multiple people who can meet my needs and desires, not putting all the pressure on that one person. Okay, so maybe you have a want or desire to connect with someone intellectually. You want to toss ideas around and be challenged intellectually. Or maybe you're the type of person that you want or desire to laugh with someone, to be lighthearted, to play games. Or maybe you have a desire to work out with someone. Maybe you want to travel to foreign lands. Or maybe you want to start a new craft. Maybe you want to learn how to paint. Maybe you want to try new restaurants. Like there's so many things, so many things. Hey, for me, I have many different interests and wants. I do want to discuss the latest self-help books. I want to be active. I want to kayak. I want to go to farmers markets. I want to do puzzles. I want to take walks with people. I want to laugh with people. I want to talk finances and new opportunities for investing. I want to share a meaningful podcast with someone. Guess what? No one can meet all those needs. My husband is not a want match for all of those things, and that's okay. Okay, so we have all these needs and desires for connections, and what this podcast is about is breaking through some of the thought patterns or expectations that will be one person who meets all those needs. Okay, instead of putting the responsibility for that on one person, we get to take responsibility, step into that adulthood, and find multiple people out there or ways to meet our diverse needs. Do you get it? And how do we go about this in the simplest way? This is where the want match. I am a master at helping people simplify things. Okay, and it is really with the want match. First, we need to get clear on what we want. And I recognize that this is a big first step that we deal with. Okay, I deal with this a lot in the monthly membership, as many of us have spent our whole lives practicing what I call the 3 Ps: people pleasing, placating, and pretending. Okay, which means that we often don't know what we want. I'm not going to go there in this episode, but it is very important to this want match idea and to your future development and sort of growing into the best adult you're going to be, is to separate out what we want and what we're doing from what we're doing to placate or please or pretend with someone else for their approval. That just doesn't work. I'm not going into it here, but it doesn't work. If you need help with that, reach out to me and I'll send you a podcast recommendation. So the first part, we get clear about what we want. The second part, we open our mouths. Yeah, I said it. We open our mouth and ask for what we want. Okay. Third part, we let the other person open their mouth. They get to tell us, is it a want match? The result, we grow stronger. Okay, here's another example. I love examples, and I know you guys too, of what that looks like. Recently, my husband wanted to travel about 6 hours to see his sister at her farm, and spend a couple of nights. He asked me if I wanted to go. Okay, the old people-pleasing Susie would have shot a yes out of her mouth before checking in with what she really wanted. Luckily, I've been practicing this for a while. So guess what? I paused, checked in with myself, and thought, no, I don't want to. I had my reasons. I didn't want to drive that long in a weekend. I was in the middle of a big work week. I had traveled the weekend before with him, blah, 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 blah. Okay? But ultimately, I didn't want to. Okay? Meanwhile, he had many reasons for wanting to go. He hadn't seen his sister in a while. He liked the farm. He loves to take that drive. Blah, blah, blah again. He wanted to. The point is, Not so much the reasons we had and debating the reasons, okay? But we were not a want match. Both of us had reasons that the other could understand for wanting to go and not wanting to go. And both of us have done enough work on interdependency to know that Susie and Paul did not have a want match. And so we went our separate ways that weekend without drama. Yes, Paul wishes Susie wanted to go because Paul loves Susie. But Paul is grateful that Susie was true to herself and did what was right for her. Okay, instead of the old Susie would have gone and been resentful and blamed Paul when she was tired that night, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Also, Susie, there's a part of Susie that wishes Paul didn't want to go, that he'd chill with her on the beach over the weekend. I'm wired to connect. It's more fun with Paul around. I love him and I miss him when he's gone. But this is adulthood. We can't always be in a want match. So knowing we can handle uncomfortable emotions like disappointment or sadness or loneliness, knowing our partners can too, is part of that interdependence. 1 + 1 = 3. Us not taking over, maybe we think they can't handle the emotion. Okay, that's codependency. We're like, oh God, you can't handle that, so I'm going to go. No. If they can't, that's theirs to figure out and get their coach for. We can love them and be like, I understand. That's another podcast again. But just to notice, no want match. Another quick example, another client of mine shared about this, that there's a local flower festival in her state. And she had decided at the beginning of this year that she wanted to go. Requires her to drive a distance and stay in a hotel for a couple nights. Okay? She wanted to go and she wants someone to go with her. She asked her husband if he wanted to go. And he did not. No want match. She didn't self-abandon and say, oh, well, I guess I won't go. And maybe stay home and pout and feel sorry for herself or, none of that. Maybe I don't know. Rather, she looked around and thought, okay, my husband doesn't want to go. And she reached out and found someone who very much did want to go and enjoy the flower festival. Want match. Yay. All right. I want to be very clear here that want matches are not an excuse to be rigid and that lone wolf or the ice queen. Okay, sometimes our partner or kid may ask us for something and our first inclination is like, no, to be all rigid. I have many examples of that. Like, here's another one. For me, yesterday was a national holiday in Australia. It was a Tuesday and a work day for me. So I had American clients all morning and I have, general work tasks planned for all my Tuesday afternoons. I know what I do on Tuesday afternoon. And my husband was like, hey, it's this day in Australia and I want to take this train into Sydney and see and participate in a parade. It would be awesome if we could go together. Do you want to go? Okay. My first instinct, my heavily boundaried, rigid self thought, but I didn't say this out loud, but my first instinct was like, nah, that's not my plan. Luckily, I did the same pause and was like, hey, Susie, in a year, what will you remember? That you edited your blog post and responded to some emails? Or that you went to this parade and experience that you've never had before? Okay. I looked at my calendar. I saw that I could fit in my work tasks on other days, so I wasn't self-abandoning. And we had a want match. So my husband opened his mouth and asked for what he wanted. Remember, step 1, my husband needs to know what he wants. Step 2, he opens his mouth and asks for what he wants, someone to accompany him to the parade. I paused, checked in with my true self, not my people-pleasing self, and said a clean yes. Yay! It's so awesome. Which meant that when I went, it was me going because I wanted to, not because I thought it would make him happy. Okay? I know he'll be happy or won't be happy because of his thoughts. Other people can ask for what they want. We get to answer how we want. They can always ask. Okay? I've gone on and on. This is deep work. There's so many examples. I have so many examples from my own life, which I think, or at least I hope can at least serve to you that codependency is not something we turn on or off or that we have shame if it's there. It's like habitual patterns. It's in the A line of the model. Okay, we've been conditioned to do this. We've been conditioned to manage everyone else's feelings and experiences. Okay, we just want to remove the shame, remove it out, and try to take steps forward to look for our want matches and to not make drama when there isn't a want match. There's a lot here in this episode. You may want to re-listen to it again, or you may want to re-listen to my original codependency episode. What I suggest is that you practice want matches this week. Okay, get clear on what you want. Open your mouth to ask for it, and then let the other person express on their own. Okay, see if there's a want match. What if there isn't a want match? My urgency to you, my extra warrior star, would be if you don't take it personally when there's no want match. Okay, can you view like the no want match, can you view it happily as evidence that the person feels safe in your relationship to speak truthfully instead of people pleasing or self-abandoning? Sure, you may wish that they went with you to your sister's farm or the flower festival or discussed Michelle Obama's books. Yet it's not their job to make sure you don't get disappointed. You're a human and you can have human emotions. It's like they can handle it. It's the more of us that are doing 1 + 1 = 3, the more the more we show up in this world. Okay? You did not come to this world to make sure everyone else stayed happy and comfortable. You came to this world to tap into your desires. Your desires are here as a roadmap to show what you're here to do in this work, on this world. Okay, so let's practice this want matching this week to step out of the codependent behavior. And I just keep me informed. This is super important and strong and empowering work. If you need extra support, join the membership. Okay, I am always there for you. And I'm so excited for you to start practicing. Let's go, warrior. You matter to me.
Thank you for listening to the Love Your Life show. If you want to hear more from Susie and support the show, be sure to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. Also, leave a review and share this podcast with friends and family. Go get 'em, warriors.